Watching this happen, and again, it's very personal for me because of how, I'm the chick that wore the Blue Lives Matter hat. I've got a thin blue line sticker on the back of my car.
When I criticize them as Donald Trump and Stephen Miller's Gestapo, you might be thinking, Waj, you're a progressive and you have no respect for the badge and you have no respect for protecting our borders. And I say, well, ISIS doesn't protect the borders. And if it is the border, tell me where the border is in Portland and Chicago. And please tell me why zip tying children somehow makes us safer. But today, I actually have a former Republican who not just is married to someone who actually has law enforcement experience, but comes from a family where people actually were in law enforcement, where they were tasked to protect and serve the public, and their fidelity was to the rule of law and the Constitution and not a king. And that lady is Tara Setmayer of Uncompromised. You have to go subscribe to her Substack, and also the co-founder of Seneca Project. And she has a great piece out on her Substack called Dishonoring the Badge. So don't take it from me. Take it from Tara and read her piece, because we are witnessing this with our eyes. We're hearing it with our ears, Tara. We're seeing that the border no longer is in Mexico or in Canada. The border is wherever there is any dissent, any critique, any brown and black person, any white Grand Tifa saying enough is enough and I'm against Donald Trump as terrorism. The border is in Portland. The border is in LA. The border is in Chicago. The border is right here in Washington, D.C., where you and I have been many, 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 many times to Union Station, where there's a Lululemon and a Jamba Juice. And it's actually very beautiful. And our National Guard members are just wasting their time, not doing their work, not protecting America by just picking up trash. So I give it to you. Am I crazy by calling Stephen Miller's Gestapo?
No, you're not. And that's a lot coming from someone with my background, as you mentioned. And Wash, it's good to be with you, my friend. It's been a while. We haven't had a chance to chat.
Because you are busy. I email you, you ignore me, and then by
No.
every third email, I get a response. But that's okay. I never take it. I just know that you're super busy, so I don't even get offended.
Oh, no. Well, it is true. We're all juggling a lot, right, in what we do. And my super PAC, the Seneca Project, we're a messaging and content organization trying to convince Democrats why it's worthy to invest in organizations like ours that are women-led and fighters and out here trying to get the message out to the people. And it has been a challenge. So as you can only imagine, so we've been, trying to fight from all angles here. And I got to tell you that what I'm watching and witnessing with what's happening with ICE is breaking my heart. And for people who follow me and who have followed my political journey and know me from CNN for years, probably were very mad at me during those years. We're all on the same side of democracy and fighting for what's right now. But back in the day, used to have a lot of my left of center and progressive friends were very mad at me because of the position I took supporting law enforcement during a lot of the protests and things that were going on. There were cases where I was like, whoa, 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 I'm not so quick to indict law enforcement in certain cases. And I would explain, I would come from a more pragmatic perspective on policing because my grandfather was a 40-year police officer. He was the captain of my hometown police department in Paramus, New Jersey. Go Jersey. So I grew up around the police and the firemen, very blue collar, going to the 4th of July parade every year. My grandfather marched in every parade from 1947 when he got out of World War II until 2016 when he was wheeled in a wheelchair at 90 years old down the parade route with his fellow police officers and passed away 10 days later. This is something that is, I bleed blue. I grew up around this. And I married a federal officer. My husband is still currently a federal officer. So watching what's going on, it's despicable. I have never been more upset and disappointed in what's happening with people who are supposed to be protecting and serving. That badge means something. It does. And there's a certain honor that most people, of course, you're always going to have the bad apples, but most people who raise their right hand and take that oath to protect and serve are true servants and want to protect their communities. And what ICE is doing, what this administration is doing with our federal officers, because it's not just ICE, they're roping in others. It's Border
There you go.
Patrol, it's HSI, and they're roping in others, and they're even, roping in the FBI, Secret Service, even for God's sakes, which I don't know what the hell they have to do with this. They're roping in all ATF, all these people to basically execute their mass deportation operation, which they promised they would do if they got elected. And apparently millions of Americans didn't give a shit about that. And that's what they're doing. And they're doing it in such an unethical, cruel, and inhumane way that it goes against everything that you're supposed to represent as a law enforcement officer. So I watching this happen, and again, it's very personal for me because of how, I'm the chick that wore the Blue Lives Matter hat. I've got a thin blue line sticker on the back of my car. Like, we are a proud law enforcement family. But my grandfather is spitting in his grave, as I write in my piece, at what's happening. My husband is horrified because their idea is you take an oath to protect, not an oath to terrorize. And that is what these people are doing. ICE and this whole law enforcement operation that Kristi Noem is behind in her cosplaying border Barbie bitch role here, I can't deal with it, is all to terrorize and dehumanize people in a way that we haven't seen in this country in quite some time, probably since Jim Crow era. And this is not acceptable. It's not okay. And we have to speak up about it. And more people in law enforcement should be speaking up about it, because what they're doing is so against what you're taught. It's against the use of force continuum. It's against, this shooting rubber bullets and pepper spraying people who are just protesting because you're irritated with them. That's against the rules. That's against everything you're taught. When I worked in Capitol Hill, actually, well, I've been in politics for 30 years, which is hard to
That's
think
wild.
about. Yeah, it's been 30 years. I came to D.C. from Jersey in 1993 as a wide-eyed, bushy-tailed freshman at George Washington University. I was vice chair of the college Republicans. I was very entrenched in Republican politics as a young college student, and all the way up until Donald Trump, where I quit the party because for all the reasons. But I was an intern in 1995 for a senator when the Ruby Ridge hearings were going on. And for people who don't know,
No.
anyone that's under 30, Ruby Ridge was one of those, kind of like Waco. It was one of the cases in the 90s where law enforcement used deadly force when they probably shouldn't have, and they killed a white nationalist guy. He was kind of a white supremacist, survivalist guy named Randy Weaver. His family, they were up in Idaho, and they were like hoarding guns and like counterfeiting money and trying to live off the grid. And they were very mad about the U.S. government and things like that. Kind of like the early Proud Boys types that we see now. But they ended up going in there, ATF, guns blazing, and shooting his wife while she was holding their 18-month-old baby. And it became a very controversial case. And Waco wasn't far after that. And so I was briefing the senator, because the senator was from Idaho, and they were very upset about this government overreach. And I learned at 20 years old as an intern in the Senate all about the use of force rules
Mm.
for about 70 different federal law enforcement agencies and the differences. And back then, Border Patrol, their tactical team was called BORTAC. It's different now, but that's what it was called back then. And believe me, the use of force rules were very different than they are now. Fast forward to my work on Capitol Hill as a senior staffer in 2007. From 2007 to 2009, I worked on a case. I was like the Erin Brockovich of this case, advocating for two Border Patrol agents who were, in my opinion, unjustly convicted and charged for shooting a drug smuggler who was over here illegally, had $1 million worth of drugs in a van. They were along the border in Texas outside of El Paso. They found this guy, chased him. He abandoned the van, left the drugs behind, started to run to the border. He got into a scuffle with the officers. Then he kept running. He turned back. They thought he had a gun. They shot at him. They didn't know they hit him. He kept running, absconded into Mexico. Well, they wounded him. They didn't know. They didn't fill out the proper paperwork. There was some kind of discrepancy there. Make a long story short, the guy got away, but he went to a corrupt Border Patrol agent, cousin of his in Arizona, and complained about these guys and actually said that his civil rights were violated. The Border Patrol guys were chasing a drug smuggler who left $1 million worth of drugs behind, but it was the drug smuggler who claimed that his civil rights were violated. Now, this turned into a big cause célèbre in 2007. It was Agents Ramos and Compion, and I got involved in it because of my passion for law enforcement, and I thought these guys were wrong. They got sentenced to 11 and 12 years in prison, which was crazy. Why so much? They got charged with the illegal discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence. That's Section 924C of the Federal Code, mandatory minimum 10-year sentence. No law enforcement officers in the commission of their regular everyday duties had ever been charged under that statute. For good reason, because cops discharge their weapons all the time. If they were the threat of them being charged under 924C, no one would ever discharge their weapons at their own expense, right? Well, it was a whole thing. And for 2 years, like I said, I led that effort with other members of Congress and a huge coalition nationally. Their case became a big national cause célèbre. And I ended up securing a presidential pardon a commutation for them. I promised them I would, and I walked one of them out of prison the day that his commutation took effect, him and his wife. It was a very proud moment for me. I reunited him with his family, and I was very
Was
proud of
that
that.
under Obama?
That was under George W. Bush.
Mm.
It was George W. Bush. So I have never been afraid to go up against my own party and speak out when I thought things were not right. And that was another one of those cases. It was not right. It was a Republican U.S. attorney appointed by George W. Bush who prosecuted these guys. And it was George W. Bush that needed to commute their sentences. We wanted a full pardon, but we saw that wasn't going to happen. We just wanted to get them out of prison. So we were able to secure that commutation. And they spent 2 years too long in prison, in my opinion, in solitary confinement, by the way. But I say all that to say that when I talk about this now, and I'm going after ICE and Border Patrol and watching what's happening, this is from someone who literally dedicated 2 years of my life in completely engulfed in Border Patrol culture, supporting the Border Patrol. I was a hawk on border security, but I was never in favor of anything inhumane or anything like this. We could all have differences of opinions on how we are supposed to handle our border security, but what we can agree is that this is not it. And what's happening is a disgrace to all the good men and women who were in the Border Patrol who never would have been able to get away with a fraction of what these people are doing and violating the rights of individuals like they are today. There was another border agent during my time, during advocating for Ramos and Compion, who came to me about how he spent 27 months in prison as a Border Patrol agent who pushed a detainee down with his foot. After a chase, there was a group of them in like a circle. They had him all detained and they kept getting up. They weren't listening. He pushed him down with his foot. He went to prison for 27 months for a violation of civil rights under color of law. That's the other statute. What? For pushing somebody down with their foot aggressively? Look what's happening today. Fast forward to today. These people should all be in prison under the
That's
rules
right.
of back in the day. So, I mean, there's just so many things going on here that I think more and more Americans need to speak up about it, because it's not going to just stop with the brown folks or the people who speak a different language or who look differently than you. This is to set it up to come for anyone who has a difference of opinion. It's how it starts. This is how it starts. And it's really rapidly accelerating with the violation of civil liberties. And anyone who believes in civil liberties, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, should not be okay with the absolute inhumanity, cruelty, and unethical behavior going on by our federal officers in these ICE raids.
You know, people have said, have Jen Budd. I've had her on twice. Jen Budd is a former Border Patrol agent, senior Border Patrol agent. She wrote a book about it. She knows the culture inside and out. She
Yep.
was a whistleblower. And she's the one who's come out and said, of all people, she goes, abolish ICE because we don't need ICE. What they're doing is part and parcel of the ICE culture to terrorize. This does not keep the border safe. They actually
Yep.
don't do any border security. ICE does not do border security, folks.
No.
And that's what people don't realize. And the point, bringing back full circle, I think people don't realize this, is under Donald Trump and Stephen Miller, what they're doing, folks, in real time is they're making everyone into an immigration officer. So what Tara said, there's a big piece of news that, of course, with the 18 fires got lost, is now 20 to 40% of our FBI, 20 to 40% of our FBI that, I don't know, maybe look after drug trafficking, sex trafficking. Oh, I don't know, investigate foreign
Terrorism?
countries, trying to interfere in our elections.
Right.
They're now being tasked by Pam Bondi to do immigration work, right?
That's right.
National Guard members literally wasting their time in DC. So you got National Guard, FBI, military in LA, local police that gets their funding from this huge friggin' behemoth military industrial complex, ICE agents, masked and armed,
Yes.
not showing you their ID. Literally, they're operating in a way, Tara, with such impunity that you've seen so many examples now where that, for example, where Brad Lander in New York was
Yes.
briefly arrested, that same hallway, there was that poor woman simply speaking in Spanish, crying, asking about her husband. There were cameras around. This mother effer didn't care. He
Nope.
tackled her to the ground, and then because it was caught on camera, they're like, "Okay, we've suspended him for
Yeah.
2 days," and he was brought back
That's
for
right.
2 days.
That's
So
right.
this to me is people who are like, we can shoot a priest who's unarmed. We can zip tie a kid. We can body slam a journalist. We can body slam a 79-year-old man. We can just throw Kat Abu Ghazala, who's 5 foot nothing, on the floor.
Yep.
What are you going to do to us? We can tackle friggin' Senator Padilla. What are you going to do to us? We can arrest Mayor Baraka for being the mayor of Newark and like actually, trying to keep his residents safe. What are you going to do to us? We
Yep.
can raise our gun at Maxine Waters. Who are you, mother effer? And to your
That's
point,
right.
if they can do this to Padilla, Maxine Waters, Mayor Baraka, a middle-aged woman, that journalist who they lied about, that horrific video and photo. I was talking to Allison about it. She's literally looking up at people, her own journalist, like they literally have video of her doing nothing and they lied about her. Then what about us? And when it comes to us, Tara, from the opposite side, being a Muslim, being brown skinned, we have a different experience with law enforcement. It's all about
Yes.
subjective, your personal experience. We
Yes.
kept saying, all right, you're going to go after the undocumented, and America was fine. You're going to go after the pro-Palestine activist, Rumeza Ostrich, literally kidnapped in the middle of the street for writing an op-ed. America was fine. You're going to go after the trans. America was fine. You're going to go after black and brown people. But now they're going after whites, Tara.
Yes. That's right.
And you and I know when white lives matter more in this country, white
Yeah,
tears matter more,
unfortunately.
white skulls matter more.
Yes. White male lives matter more. Actually, if you want to even get it even more granular than that. But yeah, no, you're right. And now, like when they shot that priest in the head with the pepper spray, the pepper ball, that was from like a month ago. It started to get more traction because people started posting it on social, thank God. And now it was like, oh, whoa, wait, what? Yeah, this has been going on now for quite some time. It didn't matter, pulling people away from their, screaming kids and mothers and fathers doing just going to the store, walking down the street. Oh, well, yeah, oh, that's too bad. But now it's like, oh, wait a minute. In Chicago, they're assaulting white folks. The same thing with Portland. Portland's a lot of white folks, right?
A lot
I
of white folks.
I've never been to Portland. I love Oregon wines, but I've heard.
I've been to Portland. I love Portland. It is so white, your teeth will become white,
Yeah.
even whiter. It's very white.
Right. And that's fine. But it becomes like they're trying to otherize anyone who doesn't have the same worldview. That's the bottom line. Now it's not going to matter skin color or gender anymore. It's worldview. And it's the thought police. We're already seeing this. I am a resident scholar at the University of Virginia for the Center of Politics with renowned Professor Larry Sabato. It is an honor to be a part of that program there. They are coming for universities like UVA now to make them sign a pact that says that they will not, quote, belittle conservative values and ideals. What the hell does that mean? So in an institution of higher learning, now that you've got the thought police coming in from the federal government telling them what they can and cannot do, or else they risk losing any federal subsidies, grant money, whatever. It's a different tactic than what they did with Harvard, which I've also had the privilege of being a part of at the Institute of Politics there. And what they did with Harvard, a little different there. Now they want these it's 9 universities. I think MIT was also included that in that, a
And
couple
MIT was
others.
the first one that said F you on Thursday.
Yes, and I'm glad. And now I'm concerned. There's some back and forth going on down at UVA because UVA has some MAGA folks that are on their board of trustees down there. There's a lot of pressure. I'm concerned that UVA might sign this, which would be awful. But again, it's the thought police coming after the whole designating Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. Antifa's not a thing. It's an
No.
idea. It's a thought, right? It's not an organization. So this is Stephen Miller's fever dream. He is really running all of this. Donald Trump just gets off on the idea of using federal law enforcement and tough guys with guns because he's such a wuss that he thinks he lives vicariously through the tough guys with guns. He likes the imagery, as most dictators do. Stephen Miller is the one that's driving all of this. He was
Yep.
the architect of the American Carnage speech. He has been an absolute insane sicko when it comes to immigration since he was 12 years old. For folks who don't know, research Stephen Miller's background. Rolling Stone had a good story about him a couple weeks ago. There's been some profiles. I mean, he used to have a best friend who was Latino when he lived out in California that he stopped being friends with going from 8th grade to 9th grade because he was Latino. He was like, we can't be friends anymore. Like,
Yeah, it was ninth grade, and I've had the
yeah,
author of both that report, that Rolling Stones report. Go check it out on the Left Hook, and also the author Gene Guerrero, who wrote the book Hate Monger, that said that this has been a wet dream of Stephen
yes,
Miller since ninth grade. Like literally, she traced it.
yeah,
Everything he's done in his life has come to this point. He's a true
yep,
believer, white
yep.
nationalist.
Yep. It's there's all kinds of self-hating folks in all races and genders, and he's a self-hating Jew, and it's a shame, after his, family with their Holocaust history, like his family, that's why his family disowns him. He's a disgusting, despicable, disgraceful human being with all the powers of the federal government at his disposal. And if you ever watch this guy, and this is a failure, I feel like, of one of the many failures of the election last year. I don't think we tried, the Seneca Project tried, but there wasn't a coordinated enough effort to show people that you're not just electing Donald Trump. You are electing an entire administration of people who will actually execute these horrible things he's talking about. We tried, and you know what? There was some momentum last year with Project 2025. People started to go, wait a minute, we're not with all this. And we're like, yeah, here's the book. Here's the playbook. They literally wrote it down for you. It's right here. They published it in hard copies online. They put little fancy covers on it. Like, they're proud of this. This is what they're going to do. Believe them. And then as soon as Donald Trump, this was definitely a dereliction of duty, one of many by the mainstream media. As soon as Donald
Absolutely.
Trump said, I don't know anything about that. Who? He coffee boyed Project 2025. I don't know who that is. What? I don't know. Right?
Nice deep cut.
Thank you for those who know. And then they just moved on. And they should not have ever allowed that because Project 2025, about half of it has already been executed. All of the most horrific things where people are going, oh my God, from Brandon Carr and the FCC and what they're doing to firing all of these people and ravaging our federal agencies to how they use Doge to getting rid of our foreign aid programs to changing the rules with the military, going after women, coming for ladies. They're coming for our abortion care next, okay? They're
Yep.
coming for it. Mifepristone, safe ways of reproductive health. They're coming for it. They just haven't gotten to it yet publicly, but it's happening behind
Griswold
the
and
scenes.
Obergefell, they're coming for both.
All of it. That's right. Gay marriage, all of it. They are coming for it. And there's no reason to believe that they're not going to find an excuse to try to enact the Insurrection Act. They're going to try to squash dissent even further. There's a reason why Donald Trump is priming this country for getting used to militarizing our cities and otherizing people. I mean, what's going on in Chicago is completely unacceptable. we should be in the streets. I know No Kings is coming on Saturday. I hope people go out and protest because we need to show a unified voice. Seneca Project just did a partnership promo with No Kings. That came out on Saturday. We have another one coming out tomorrow morning, which is called Stand Up, which is get you in all the feels. Because listen, our grandfathers and fathers fought in World War II. Great grandfathers crossed oceans with guns to fight fascists. Okay. We're not asking too much of us to get out with our lattes and lawn signs to go out and march in the streets
Yeah,
for
with the
our
bodies. You need
democracy.
to show bodies. You need to show bodies. And I always tell people this is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Everything that Tara said, look, just to put to add a little bit to what Tara said and make my case why this is weakness. Last week, Donald Trump was asked, will you pardon Ghislaine Maxwell? And he goes, Ghislaine who? I don't know the name, huh? He didn't rule it out. He was asked about the Insurrection Act. He didn't rule it out. I've been saying this for a year, Tara. Anyone who's been
Mhm.
watching the Left Hook, they say, why do you repeat stuff? Because sometimes you have to repeat stuff because we live in the United States of amnesia. I take Donald Trump literally and seriously.
Yes.
I said in October last year that when he quoted Hitler and said he would unleash the National Guard and the military against the enemy from within, take
Yep.
him literally and seriously.
Yep.
He said again 2 weeks ago, we have to go, hey, military, stop being gay. We got to go against the enemy within. I've said since the summer, they're going to create a crisis.
Yep.
Look at what happened to the Nazis in 1933. Reichstag fire, create
That's
a
right.
crisis, declare an emergency, go for martial law, make Trump dictator, crush all dissent. What
Hmm.
more do you need to see, folks? Stephen Miller
Hmm.
has used the word invasion. He used
Yes.
the word insurrection.
Yep.
All of last week, they said they're open to using the Insurrection Act, which will allow him to federalize the National Guard and unleash the military against Americans and not subject to the Posse Comitatus Act. LA was a
The
test
what,
case.
Waj? The what? He didn't even know what that was. Habeas
Yeah,
corpus it was. The habeas corpus. He didn't know what that
yeah,
was. But
but and speaking about habeas corpus, Stephen Miller wanted to suspend habeas corpus in the summer. Habeas corpus allows anybody. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be undocumented, documented, visitor. Anybody can protest what they say is their unlawful
right.
detention in the United States. The most important writ. So Stephen Miller said suspend it,
Yep.
and we can invoke the Alien Enemies Act, which was allowed by which was used in World War II to detain innocent Americans of Japanese descent
That's
in
correct.
internment camps, right? So they're telling you the supervillain plot, but I do think this is weakness and overreach. And I think a mistake that was made, and I tweeted this over the weekend, and it pissed off MAGA, which is why I retweeted it, was the following. MAGA has made a mistake by putting 4'10" freak mini Himmler Stephen Miller center stage
Mhm.
because they don't realize the majority finds him to be repulsive. And this is
Yes.
what happens when you're in a cult, especially what you're seeing with Israel and Palestine and you're seeing with the Nobel Peace Prize. They're demanding, Tara, if you're on Twitter, give Donald Trump credit, give Donald Trump credit. And the majority is like, no, and they don't realize that what's popular in the cult is repulsive to the rest of us,
That's right.
especially with what's happening with Chicago and Portland.
Yes. Like, listen, you're 100% right about that. And they should have, like, the mistake, like you said, as my mom always says, the devil always goes too far. Give the devil enough rope, right? And that's what's happening here. You wanna put Stephen Miller's really feeling himself right now because he's got all the power, so he wants to get on these shows. I don't know if you saw him on CNN last week, but every time that he's on for more than 3 minutes, he loses his shit because his
Yep.
crazy kicks in and he starts screaming like a maniac about plenary powers. Whoops, right? Can you believe that CNN edited that out? That is
Okay.
just
Boris
wow.
Sanchez. Boris Sanchez, I feel bad for him, folks. What Tara's talking about is Boris Sanchez was talking to Stephen Miller, and Boris, you have the whole clip is still there, and Stephen Miller blurts out plenary authority. Donald Trump has plenary authority, and then he catches us up. Literally, it's awkward as F. For 10 seconds, he's
Yes.
just silent
Yep.
because he
Yep.
admits the plot. And then
Yep.
CNN throws Boris Sanchez under the bus.
Yep. They repost that clip and edit out where he says plenary, which is just insane because do they not realize that we have the original? Like, what are you doing? I give credit to Boris Sanchez in that interview because he actually did push back more than usual against Stephen Miller's rantings about Portland. He was saying all about how Portland is ravaged with terrorists and it's burning to the ground. And so CNN did a series of stories with Shimon Prokupecz on the ground, like, There's nothing burning to the ground. The protest is literally one city block in front of the ICE building, and that's it. And then Chrissy Nome went there and looked like a total jackass because she's on her
Wow.
roof looking around, and there's nothing happening. Nothing happening. She looks like a total ass, which she
Wasn't
is.
there a guy in either a frog or a cow costume?
Chicken soup.
Chicken.
Chicken soup. That's right. And then she went and lied and said that that Portland hid all the Antifa people. Like, they're so desperate, but they got caught. They get caught all the time. But it's then what do we do about it? That we have to keep the pressure on them. And what's happening in Chicago, listen, people in Chicago don't play around. Chicago's like New York. They don't fuck with Chicago. And it's the same thing with New York, like I'm from Jersey, similar swag. Like, we don't play that. So Chicago residents are really banding, together to protect each other. Now, they shouldn't have to. No American city should have to do this to protect themselves from the overreach of a Gestapo-type government. This is new to us, right? We're not used to this here. Now, Black folks in the South are used to that, but which is what happened for 100 years under Jim Crow. But this is new for most people in modern America. And it shouldn't be happening. We at Seneca Project, we actually put out a video called Code Red. It is 5 minutes long of cuts of what ICE has been doing to immigrants in this country. And it is absolutely heartbreaking when you watch it like that. It's on all of our socials. It's called Code Red. Share it with everyone. Share it with your MAGA Christian friends who claim that Donald Trump is the next Cyrus, right? He's the second coming because of what he's done with Israel. Okay, what's
The
happening here?
Persian, for those who don't know the reference that Tara made, and that's what they say for the last 10 years, they've excused, everyone asks, well, how do they excuse his vulgarity, his cruelty? And they say, well, he's like Cyrus, the Persian pagan king that God nonetheless used to do good deeds.
Right. But the difference is that Cyrus actually repented. They forget that part, okay? Cyrus
And
was
remember when Donald Trump was asked if he had ever repented or asked for forgiveness in the first administration?
for what? I don't think so. Why would I? I've never done anything I need to ask for forgiveness for. So I don't know how they square that circle, but that's what they claim. And there's even
Did you
right
hear
now.
that? Did you hear the admission over the weekend where he said he's not going to heaven?
Oh, again, he's obsessed with this, because we all see that he's clearly unwell. And so he's obsessed now with what happens after he dies because he's been surrounding himself with all of these evangelicals who believe in the afterlife and that you have to accept Jesus if you're going to get to heaven. And Donald Trump, I wouldn't put my money on him getting up there. So he's starting to think about this. And so that's why this is not the first time he's talked about, he doesn't
Yes,
think about
yes.
heaven or whatever. It's been like a weird thing because clearly he's an older man and half a cheeseburger away from meeting his maker. So Donald Trump is he's just such a deranged, despicable human being that the fact that the evangelical community would put their political power and hopes and dreams behind Donald Trump is one of the biggest betrayals of this country we've ever seen, and I'll never understand it. And I know books have been written. I know our friend John Fugelsang has written a great book. He
Yeah,
sent
really
it to
good book.
me. I'm getting ready to read it because I'm going to interview him about it. But John Pavlovich is another one who's been really great about indicting the evangelical community. That's a community that I spent time in growing up and have nothing to do with it anymore. Because in 2016, I thought the evangelicals will be the bulwark. How could they possibly? And when my own pastor's wife that oversaw the church that I was in called me a heretic because I pointed out the hypocrisy of Donald Trump, I knew that we had a problem, and I will never step foot in an evangelical church again with anyone that supports Donald Trump because of their hypocrisy. It'll be between me and God, and let them deal with that. But all of these people falling for the cult, back to the Stephen Miller cultish part of this, there's more of us than there are of them.
There you
They're
go.
just louder and they are in power, but a lot of people stayed home in 2024. A lot of people disengaged. We can't afford that. Either
Nope.
you love this country and have faith in the ideals of this country and want it to succeed, or you don't. And if you don't, well, then you're going to get this. and it's going to get worse, and we're going to pay the consequences. But if you do think that this country's worth fighting for, then all of us has a role to play in it. And it starts with just simply assembling and letting your voice be heard. At least start there. And then you take the next steps. We need to vote these bastards out. We need to make sure we have candidates that are still going to adhere to the Constitution. We need to make sure that we pay attention. We can't pay attention to everything all the time. That's why we kind of take areas of interest and focus on that, and you spread the word. Make sure people know. Support independent media. This is so important for us to be able to spread the word, because we can't rely on corporate media. That we see what they're doing already too. It really is going to take all of us. And it starts with making sure that when we have the collective righteous anger of the American people, we can move mountains. We've done it before.
And I think everyone has a role to play, folks. Everything is part and parcel of the resistance because there's more of us, and this fascist regime is run by very reckless, incompetent, self-destructive people. And they're
Mhm.
getting threatened and they're weak. And all the overreach you're seeing is a symbol and a reflection of a weak, hankled commander in chief. The walls are closing in. As I've said before with Allison, for those who joined us for that conversation, he's negative on the economy. He's negative on inflation. He's now negative on immigration that used to be his strong suit. A majority of Americans are against this overreach. Even Joe Rogan's like, this is inhumane when it
Yes.
comes to the crackdown, right?
Yes.
When it comes to the shutdown, they're blaming Republicans. Marjorie Taylor Greene sees where the wind is blowing. She's defective.
Crazy.
Candace Owens is defecting a little bit. Tucker Carlson is defecting because J.D. Vance ain't the guy. They know
No.
he ain't the king, so
No.
everyone's looking for for to wear the crown. And furthermore, you're seeing the bailouts, you're seeing the corruption. They're pissed off. Why did Argentina get $20 billion? Why is Qatar getting an Air Force facility? Why is he so corrupt? Why did he accept a $400 million jet? Is there going to be a Riviera in the Middle East? What about me being able to, I don't know, afford health care? Why are Republicans increasing healthcare premiums? How come they don't release the Epstein files? How did Tom Homan get $50,000? Did he ever return that $50,000? It's all adding up, folks. It's all adding up. And Tara said something which she's a black and brown woman. I'm a brown man. We'll say it again. When it was black folks, people were like, eh. When it was
Mhm.
brown folks, people are like, whatever. When it's Muslims, they're like, maybe they're terrorists. When it's pro-Palestinian activists, maybe they're Hamas. When it's transgender people, that's gross. When it comes to undocumented, they should come the right way. When it comes to the far left, I don't like their message. They're going after everyone now. They're going after John Bolton. They went after James Comey. Mike Pence was running for his life in 2016. I always try to remind people, excuse me, in January
2020.
6th. Yeah, I
Yep.
always tell people Mike Pence is the whitest, most Christian man on earth. He wasn't safe, folks. And
Nope.
now you're seeing white skulls being cracked, white men being tackled, blonde white girls being tackled. And now they have National Security Presidential Memo 7, speaking about thought police, that they're going to go after uh, anti-ICE or anti-Christian sentiment is seen as an indicator of left-wing terrorism. And as Tara said, they're going after universities that they want to punish those universities that
Yep.
belittle conservatives. What does that mean? Anything that they want it to mean.
Yep.
Go against Trump, you're not going to get money.
That's
Go
right.
against, make a joke about Donald Trump using and abusing Charlie Kirk's murder for himself, you're going to get canceled from ABC. If they could go after Jimmy Kimmel, what are they going to do to you, folks? And that's where we have to wake up. I want to ask you this last question, Tara,
Yeah.
because you come from a line of law enforcement, and your father, your grandfather, your husband. Um, for people, many people say, "Man, ICE is masked. They're armed. They have guns. They're doing anything and everything with impunity. How can I resist this when they could literally just shoot us?" And they are like, "Yeah, looking at the camera, f you," and they can get away with it. How do you resist the Gestapo?
It takes courage and bravery. Nobody said that being in the resistance was easy. It's not. And you have to know your rights. Make sure that you um, post them if you're on social media for other people to see. Make
Right.
sure you have a plan. If you think that you're going to confront or be confronted by these officers, have a plan. Make sure you have emergency contacts or people close to you that you know that if case something happens to you, that they can find you. You just have to be prepared and document it as much as you can. If you see something happening, document it. We are able to see what's going on because of the bravery and the courage of average Americans getting in the face of them, because it is your right to do it. You are allowed. You can't impede, but you can record them. When they
That's
tell
right.
you no, no, you can. Make sure you know your rights. Now, there are people who have been unlawfully detained, but they were released because they had to be, especially if you're an American citizen. So we still do have access to due process. And there's always the risk. Anytime you step out to try to do the right thing, there's always a risk. As a matter of fact, I actually just recently did a TED Talk. It's on TEDx if anyone wants to go check it out. It's called Stand Up or Stand By. Is moral courage the revolution we need? We are
Mm.
being faced every single day with making a choice. Are we going to stand up or are we going to stand by? And the more we stand up, the more they cannot get away with it. They have been able to get away with so much of this. Donald Trump got reelected because too many Americans stood by and let this happen. We can't afford that anymore. So we have to make a decision every single day when we're faced with something like that. Is it scary? Sure. But you can't be fearful. We can be cautious, be smart, but they want us to live in fear. So the more we stand together, the more we stand up and we don't stand by, the more we can beat this back, the more we can beat it back. So if you're confronted with something like this, and God forbid, know your rights, have a plan, and have that, you're going to have courage. It's not easy. It's not easy. But it starts small. Revolutions don't often start with hundreds and thousands of people. It starts small. And we're already building that resistance. So you're not alone. Just know that you're not alone. There's many, many people out here that will support you if God forbid that ever happens.
Hope is contagious, and so is courage. If you've ever been bullied, you know what the bully preys upon is everyone's compliance. The
That's
bully
right.
picked on the weakest kid and makes an example out of the kid, a spectacle, and
That's
then
right.
said, "See what I did to this kid? I'm going to do it to you." And everyone bows down. But then when one person stands up to the bully, you see the bully get pissed off, backtrack, start sweating, right? And when two or three people step up, bullies usually have the weakest chins and the weakest knees and the weakest cankles. Going
That's
back
right.
full circle to Stephen Miller, when Stephen Miller is confronted on social media, on TV, whenever he goes outside of Newsmax or MAGA or Fox, he melts down immediately. Notice that he cannot stand being confronted. None of
Yep.
these people can.
No,
And this country and its power still to this day bends the knee, but you're seeing people just slowly but surely say enough. You're seeing black women. Letitia James said F you. You're seeing women stand up saying F you. You finally saw George Stephanopoulos saying F you to JD Vance.
yep.
Now we have the numbers. They know we have the numbers. And as told Allison, the corporate media did not pay attention to No Kings, even though 5 million people came out in the first one. Trump administration is paying attention to this one.
They
They're
are.
they know, whoa, this could be something. And you
Yep.
need 3.5% of the population to stand up. If you get 3.5% of the population to protest, that's when historically regimes falter and fall down. So if
That's
we
right.
can even get to 8 to 9 million, that means leading up to the next one, because things are going to get far worse because he's a
Yeah.
corner rat. He's going to get more desperate. It's going to be more overreach. Folks, it's damage. The damage that Trump has done in 9 months has been generational. This is going to be a long cleanup, folks.
It's true.
But it is. Maybe you and me, Tara, won't be able to see it with our life, but maybe our kids, inshallah. But we have to do our part. Everyone has a role to play. And Tara's doing her part with Uncompromised and the Seneca Project. Tara, shamelessly promote yourself.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, if you insist. So yes, please, I have begun to be more active on Substack now because it's important. We need to have all of our voices where we can on platforms that where we're able to spread the word. So please, if you're not a subscriber to Uncompromised, please go become a subscriber. If you're able to become a paid subscriber, that greatly helps me in this effort. And thank you to everyone who already is. And if you're not a subscriber to Waj's, please subscribe to The Left Hook. Waj is doing amazing work. He even made Drudge. I saw that,
You saw that.
which is a big deal in our world. But you're doing a great job, Waj. And we come from Mary Trump's Nerd Avengers, and Waj and I go years back to our CNN days, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's like crazy how much time has gone by, and like here we are. It's just nuts. It feels like yesterday, but also feels like 20 years ago. So I'm very proud of everything, the great work you're doing, Waj. Also
Thank you. No, likewise.
for the Seneca Project, if you guys want to support a women-led effort, women that don't back down, we are a content and messaging super PAC. We are run on the generosity and donations of everyday folks. Millionaires and billionaires don't back us. We would love to have that, but until we do, it is a fully grassroots effort. So if you can support the Seneca Project, you can go check us out at senecaproject.us. Please like and subscribe to all of our socials. And if you can't support us financially, support us by spreading the word. We have content, get it out there so people can see it. We were one of the first organizations to put out a Project 2025 video last year. We just started in June of 2024. We're a young organization. We won a Webby Award for American Girl, less than a year old, which was an honor and speaks to the quality of the work that we do and the powerful messaging that we put out. So we were one of the first organizations that put out a Charlie Kirk video. In his
Mm,
own words, we did a 5-minute
that was great.
compilation
That was
of
great.
Charlie Kirk, and it got 2 million views across social media because everybody else was too scared to do it. We said, screw that. People need to hear who this guy is. And tomorrow we'll probably re-up that because tomorrow is Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day or whatever the hell. So look for that on our socials. And also, please check out my TED Talk. It was an honor to have that opportunity, and it's up now on the TED Talk YouTube site. So you just put in my name, Tara Setmayer, TEDx, and you will find my Stand Up or Stand By is Moral Courage, the Revolution We Need TED Talk. I hope that it inspires people to get out there and do the right thing.
I think the Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day it's either tomorrow or this week, and I don't think Republicans realize it's the same day of George
George
Floyd
Floyd.
because yeah. So you need that clip. I said the best way to honor Charlie Kirk is just to share what he said.
Yes.
And Republicans hate it when you quote Charlie Kirk. And the thing with Charlie Kirk is there's lots of evidence because
Hmm.
he went 10 toes down in saying that black people were better off before during slavery, and that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, and that George Floyd was a criminal, and that Derek Chauvin should be pardoned, and that he said my followers, you should put the bail money for Derek Dupate, the Trump supporter who almost killed Paul Pelosi. It's all out there,
Oh
folks.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's all there. That's why we put it with no commentary. It
Yeah,
is
just
Charlie Kirk in his own words. Well, listen, it was originally an hour long, and
yeah.
we're only able to. My co-founder Michelle Kinney, she did the edit on that, and she was like, "This is an hour long. How am I going to get this down to like 5 minutes?" And it was surprising that for a video as long as that, right, 5 minutes got 2 million views
Yeah,
because it was so compelling.
I think it's important, folks, because they're still trying. Speaking about Charlie Kirk, real quick, I want to end on this. I think I just want you to share that video again because it's a great video, and I hope you do. They're trying so desperately to elevate him into a martyr and make him into a saint. Hagiography. They're going to try it again tomorrow, which is why, folks, again, there are more of us. Share the right content. Tell people, nah, we're done with your bullshit. And
Yep.
increasingly, you're seeing MAGA recede into a cult. And the more you say F you, I won't do what you tell me, you're seeing them get so angry. You saw it last week. They were so pissed off, the temper tantrum. Give Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. And Norway's like, no. And today, like,
Right.
give Donald Trump credit for releasing the hostages. And people are like, nah, I think Netanyahu's
No,
gonna play him. Yeah, yeah, and like Charlie Kirk, worship him. We're like, nah, you can condemn the murder, but you can bring the receipts about the type of man he was during his life. So
that's
Tara's
right.
doing the great work, and also with ICE and with the Border Patrol, film it, film everything, and
Yes.
share the videos, folks. The more
Yes.
and more people are seeing them zip tying kids, body slamming innocent men and women, going against white people. I know it sounds rough the way I said. I'm telling you,
But
when
it's
this
true.
country sees white skulls being cracked, they react differently than my skull or Tara's skull. It sucks. It's just the way it is. Just the way it
Listen,
is.
listen, the civil rights movement had a inflection point after Bloody Sunday because it was on film.
Yep.
People saw it. There were millions of Americans who had no idea what was actually happening in the South and what was happening with the peaceful protests until then. And that's when things started to shift. So don't think that you're just sitting in your house or you're like, what can I do? What difference does it make? Everyone has a role to play. Robert Kennedy, the good one, had a speech about ripples, right? And you have a ripple and that turns into a current that
Yep.
can move mountains. It starts with a ripple, and that's every single one of us. So,
So
on that
thank
note,
you, Tara. Thank you for the 2,000 people watching. This is the Left Hook. It's Uncompromised with Tara. If you can, become a subscriber. If you have money, go become a paid subscriber. If not, I'm a terrible capitalist. You can join me for free. If you have a few bucks, give it over. If not, just donate, folks. Be informed. Be vigilant. Some would say be woke. Do not be afraid and join a community. Help each other out. And whatever you do, please, oh, please don't be a fascist. Thank you, Tara.
thanks, Vaj.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.